Hi, I'm Richie Mackay.
And I'm Davey Bolt, and you are listening to the Wrong Bias podcast.
And on show 41, in the words of Kool and the Gang, oh yes, it's ladies' night and the feeling's right. We are joined by Amy Williams, Rachel Cartwright and Gillian Hinsley, who give their views and thoughts on the ladies' game. We discussed the dreaded draw of rings confusion again. And there are a couple of bloopers. And thanks again go to our sponsors XX20, Lean to Succeed and Bowls is Bowls. Here we are again, show 41. There's no anniversary, so I've had to have a dig around in foreign parts. In Germany, the anniversary gift is birch. So 41 years of marriage in Germany, you get the birch.
Quite apt having a ladies' night show as well, isn't it?
It seems about right in Germany, like. Anyway, it's our first podcast of the outdoor season, mate. The weather's been all right. The greens are a bit up here. I don't know what they're like around the country. Just before our last one went out, you were down Bristol, mate, in the world, is it the IIBC Championships? Yep, and reached the quarters, mate.
I did, happy and disappointed at the same time. I played really, really well. Probably, to be fair, I was probably in the best form I'd been in the season, and came up against a Mr. Walters who unfortunately picked the day to absolutely have his bullet runner on point and never missed a thing. Drew really well, brought a lot of balls in there, but as we've always said, you've got no control over that last ball, and the amount of times I saw my white balls just disappearing left, right and centre off the
But you chased them, mate.
I was demoralised after the game, but I admit. There's nothing you can do. You know, you take your hat off to Andy. The pace he plays those runners, you know, he's so accurate, but it was relentless. I would say probably hit 9 heads and got 9 really, you know, positive results out of it. And you just hope for that little thing now and again, just to miss something, but he didn't, and that's the game. You know, Mike went on to win it. Congratulations to Mike, and obviously Julie as well, in the singles. Nice to be able to say that I was the only one to beat the winner, but... Well,
I was going to add that one. Who was the only one to beat him, I wonder?
That's like over the years, people turn around and saying, "Oh, you'll be happy, are you, because you got beat off the winner?" And well, no, obviously not, because I wanted to win it.
You wanted to win it. You want to lose. You want to lose.
Yeah, but I was really happy with my game. So
yeah, it seemed very long tournament, mate.
It was just what it probably needed to be because of obviously the numbers that's in there and the amount of countries, and that was great to see, the amount of countries that were taking part. 27, I think it was, 28 different countries. Lovely, you know, a lot of lovely people there and players. Got to give a really good mention to Bristol, the organisation, the hospitality, the way they did the meals throughout the day. So you were going in there first thing in the morning, you were there until pretty much late at night. There was meals throughout the day, and it was very, very good. Take my hat off to the club. So yeah, all in all, a really positive experience for myself. Not the outcome that I wanted, but congratulations to those who won, and
good experience for the shall we say the non-indoor playing countries.
Yeah,
it's been good experience to come up. I know you look at the scores, and the scores sort of like say, well, the competition probably only started at the quarterfinals competitively, but the experience that they've gained will be.
They need to be introduced that environment for them to progress as well, you know, it's you look at potentially Hong Kong 10, 15 years ago, they've always had good players, but I would say that the progression they've made as a unit now, you know, they've become a real powerhouse in the world of the sport, and Malaysia the same, etc., etc. So it's great to see in these, you know, the smaller countries that maybe haven't had the chance to play indoor bowls, they will take a lot from that, and hopefully it will go back home and they will say, you know, let's try and put something in place to try and give ourselves every opportunity in the future. So
and we always say on the podcast, you know, anybody who appears on this podcast seems to get something. Well, if you bear your mind back to our very first podcast, we actually introduced the Thailand international coach, didn't we, Mr.
Richards?
We
did. Yeah. He did a sterling job. I'll tell you, I have never seen a coach drink as much tea and alcohol in my life. I mean, he just did a sterling job. There was the 4-4-2 formations and everything. He was writing up on the whiteboard. He had them attacking down the wing. He had them cutting in from the right. Honestly, he's well ahead of the game as our Richards.
Oh, great. The Commonwealth Games is coming up, and the Jackaroos were over for a bit of a warm-up in May. And I had to laugh. I did one post that asked her, what's the speed of the greens? And somebody, 9 seconds.
Well, that was quicker than I saw, because I saw 7. So yeah,
I think the fella at the other end must have choked on his tea, mate.
I know.
All you seen was pictures of them wrapped up and the arms around the neck.
And I saw some of the delivery styles, and they were literally launching and it's it's. I'm sure the greens will get there, and I've got no doubt in whatsoever of the quality that we're going to have as an English team, and the home nations team will hold their own. But yeah, I've got to say I was a little bit concerned about the fact of how well the Aussies did over here.
Yes, I must. Yeah.
Under those circumstances, because for me that will only get easier for them now. They can play good balls, chucking up the middle, which is completely out of what they used to. They're always going to be, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And there was, I don't know whether we've done it before, but I'll do it again. Congrats to Gary Hood on his selection in Scotland's Paris squad for the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
And
sure probably get Gary on again. Probably after the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have another Commonwealth Games Jack at the flog. And I think it would be wrong if we did mention Bob Love retiring from international bowls.
Yeah, we've talked about Bob a lot on the podcast, and great ambassador, and as we saw in a very recent streaming of the DBE versus the North up at Stanley recently, it was a massively talked about opportunity to be able to see Bob play. A lot of great comments, and as we've always said, if anybody questions that you can't play this sport for whatever reason, then you've just got to look at Bob and a lot of the disability bowlers, and there is ways and means.
Yeah, without a doubt, mate. It was awe-inspiring just to watch him, mate. I'd never seen him in play before, and I was just gobsmacked when I watch him. And the one to finish off with, well done to Mr. Parkinson on his role at the Commonwealth Games bowls as the announcer.
All right. Well, they've obviously
God help us when he gets the mic in his hand, mate.
He just does what he always does, mate. He just talks. He must have gone in there and must have had a chat with him, and they just says, "Hey, mate, you've got the job. Don't worry about it."
It's JP. We've heard you on the podcast. You've got it.
You can talk. Crikey, you're on.
You're on.
So, on today's show, which is entitled Ladies' Night, been wanting to do this show for quite a while. Don't know why it frustrates us as much, because I don't take part in the ladies' part of the game, but seeing the gender split of, I think it's around about 34% women and 66% men in the game at the moment. So we thought we would get 3 ladies. I'm not going to call them young ladies, because we've just had a discussion earlier on. They're trying to wind me and Richie up and pretend that they're really young, but they're not. But yeah, we've got 3 ladies on from varying parts of the British Isles. So we've got Amy, who's from Wales. We've got Rachel from Northumberland, and we've got Gillian from some place like near Blackpool or something. I can't remember what you call it, Lancashire or something like that. So good evening, ladies. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Evening. Thank you for having us.
The whole point of this show tonight is I just wanted to get yourselves on. A major bugbear of mine for a long time. One of the biggest reasons I feel there is a gender split as big as what there is in the sport is due to the fact that the majority of women's games are played during the day, and we live in a world now where a lot of women are parents or working or have commitments. So one thing that really frustrates me is at the start of a season, you see the diary of events for the women's game, and I'm just looking local area for myself, but I do know it, and we will find out from you guys during the show. But you will see the semi-final and the final is going to be played at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning, blah, blah, blah. So my initial thoughts are any women looking at that who want to take part are thinking to themselves, yes, I know we can get it rearranged if we want to, but then it ruffles a few feathers, etc., etc. And I've heard a few little stories recently which just blow my mind about things that have been said. But for me, this is a big part of why women will not play, because they'll be thinking, well, I'm going to have to take holidays, or I'm going to have to organise childcare, or whatever that may be. It's great to have you on. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Lancashire first. We'll get her out of the way quickly because she can talk. She can talk, and Gillian looks shaking her head at us.
Oh.
I'm only joking, man. I'm only joking. So we'll start with yourself, Gillian. Give us a few experiences. How long have you been playing, and what's your thoughts on the current state of the women's game?
I kind of agreed with everything that you've been saying. I listened to your podcast for many, many times, and I've listened to it. And it's when you look at the statistics and you see it like that, it's actually quite shocking from my point of view. I mean, Lancashire in a whole is really small anyway. And I've taken on board being the ladies' captain this year, and it is evident that I'm going to struggle to seed 8 players, and that's hard. And it's hard to sort of put that into context. I've been playing competitively for about 12 years because I became a mum. I've got 3 children, but my youngest baby, I took a couple of years out and then started competitive bowling then. But I then joined the Stella squad. And like you say, the Stellas were Fridays. So I was having to book off all my Fridays to be able to play in a Stella. So you were kind of using up your holidays, and you only get 20 days holidays. And then that cuts down your family time then, because you've used up so many Fridays to be able to play bowls. So numbers started dwindling down, and I really had to think about whether I wanted to continue that and drive it, because the more and more people go down, the less reserves you have, the less people that are nominating. So unfortunately, as a result of that, Lancashire no longer in the Stella squad, and haven't been for a couple of years, and it's very sad. We're trying to drive new members. Is enough being done by the governing body? I don't think so, and that's just my opinion.
I'll come to yourself now, Rachel, because I know you're trying to drive a lot of change up in the Northumberland area with regards to the women's game. What sort of things have you encompassed during your time of playing, and what barriers are you coming up currently with what you're trying to do?
Well, I guess the message is probably pretty consistent across the country. Obviously, echo a lot of what same points in Lancashire. So really in Northumberland, obviously we're the same. So our county games are on a Friday. I've been bowling for about 22 years now. Again, probably starting to show my age as well. Competitively.
Did you start when you were 1? Right.
Not quite that young, maybe a couple of years older. But then playing competitively for the last sort of like 15, 16 years or so. One of the first experiences that really sticks in my head is when myself and a couple of others were playing in the triples and were qualified to the semi-finals. It actually clashed at the same time I was trying to do my GCSEs, and I had a GCSE exam for the day of the semi-final, and basically was told we had to drop out. Couldn't play in it, couldn't take part in it because of the fact that I had an exam. Now, what I'm pleased to say is that it's changed a lot since then. So fast forward now, the women's semi-finals and finals are all on a weekend, so they are a lot more inclusive now. I mean, we do have a joint finals day with our men, so we really come together as a county and have one big finals day, so we are making progress. I just don't feel as though we're doing enough change fast enough to be able to keep up with the decline in members and the closure of clubs that we're getting. We have put forward from a county perspective, because I also joined the committee probably about 4 years ago now, starting off as competition secretary, and I tend to work more on like the social media platform at the moment for the women's county, and we are trying to move one of the either the Stella or the Northern onto a weekend date as well. So that way that we do still have the Friday for those that prefer to play on the Friday afternoon, but we've also got that option for those people that are working or of school age to try and bring them up and kind of get them to be able to play at that higher level, get them to be able to experience what it's like playing as a county. But unfortunately, I think from the other counties' perspective at the minute, I don't think we're quite there and quite ready for that change just yet. But I know it's something from our county, we want to kind of continue to try and push that and try and encourage it so over the next few years. And hopefully at some point we will get to a point where we can play counties for the women on that Saturday as well.
And we're going to, again, we'll obviously come back and we'll revisit some of your conversation, because we'll pop down to the valleys now, and Miss Williams is sitting there being very patient. So do you want to, obviously you're playing at international level, Amy, so you've at a young age you've already done a lot in the sport.
Yeah, it is a bit of a mad world at the moment for ladies bowls in Wales, just in terms of like I know that everyone else has said the dwindling numbers. I mean, put it into perspective, we did our Welsh trial last season for the internationals. It didn't go ahead. They're going to go ahead in October, and we had just enough people turn up to field a team. There was basically, I think one person may have got dropped from the trial for the team, but we literally have got that number of women playing who want to play international bowls. That's kind of the state of affairs at the moment, which obviously isn't great for the game. It's not quite so bad for myself now indoors in terms of weekday playing and things, but I think it's because a lot of times we try and play the mixed leagues in an evening as much as we can, and we don't really have so many. The only women type team games that we have going on at the moment is a DJ league, and we're exactly the same as yourself, Gillian, in terms of that's just 2 rinks, 8 players, and although our club does have 2 teams, it's a state of they're not getting 8 players for the 2 teams, so we've had to kind of cancel games and things, so it's not good for the game either. And I've been playing competitively since I was 14 when I got in the under-25 team, and then 16 onwards, and I've been playing senior competitive, so that's about 12-13 years now. So my first experience was a really bad one of ladies bowls in terms of seeing the juxtaposition of worlds, really, just because when I joined my first club, which was Cannon Valley, back in the day, I could win a national title before I could win a club title in the ladies section, which was crazy, because we had to pay a membership, which was £50. And if you wanted to be a ladies member of the club, you had to pay another £12.50 on top of that to join the ladies section of the club. They played everything on a weekday, so we couldn't play there. And we had the Champion of Champions qualify, which is the only one that was kind of, you had to win at the club first. Everything else, because there's so few people in Wales, we just go straight on to kind of play in the early rounds of the nationals then, kind of thing. But the Champion of Champions, you had to play there. And I had to put in a letter to the WLIBA to let me play without paying the extra £13 or £12.50 membership, so that I could actually play to qualify out of it. And I had to get a letter from the Secretary of Welsh Ladies Bowls to say that it was as I was a member of the club, I should be allowed to play in the competition, but they wanted to keep it that kind of a closed circuit, that they didn't want these new people coming in. And I think that was a lot of, obviously I haven't experienced that for a good number of years now, and that was just when I first started. But I think having that initially and seeing that kind of closed circuit, it's hard then for kind of new people to come into that environment when it's that way to start off with. I'm a bit lucky in that I'm a little bit brash and I don't really care too much, so I just went through it. But I think there are a lot of young girls when they start that it would have put them off the game entirely and they wouldn't have played. And we were kind of fighting that image of kind of the older women's aspect of it and everything. So yeah, it's a difficult one, and yeah, we're struggling all the time for members, so it's hard, and it does need a bit of an image change and everything. And it does need, because I think one of the biggest things that we hear all the time, I think when we play the mixed game, we always hear the phrase of, oh, I like this because it's not women's bowls. And I think as long as there is that conception of it, then there's always going to be a certain struggle. So
something you touched on there, I mean, I'll throw it out to everybody, obviously Richie as well. I don't know if you want to obviously make a point on this, Richie, but you used a word there, which was power, which I think is a key one in this, because for me, a lot of the women who run bowls, I hold my hands up to them. It's hard to get volunteers. So I will never, ever disrespect somebody who's prepared to put time into the game and prepared to do things. But I've seen so many times that these women who get into these roles and positions completely and utterly use every single ounce of power that they can within that position to stop either other people coming in or allowing the sport to go forward, because it's their way or no way. And they will use that power to turn around and say, if you don't like it, I'll walk away and I'll not do it anymore. And it leaves and I don't know if you've all sort of seen this, but I've certainly seen it. You hear people all the time trying to counter blackmail in some respects to turn around and say, well, go and find somebody who's prepared to do all of this work. And if you can't, then you will accept what I say and what I do. And if I want to play them during the day, during the week, then that's the way it's going to be. Now, I don't know if you agree with that or disagree with it, but that's my sort of experience of what I've seen in some of the organisations within the sport. I
think that sometimes women can be quite headstrong, and very determined, but they'll try, because I don't know if the other girls will agree with me, but in my line of work, I've had to prove myself, and I guess as women we do constantly, and they say it's a man's world or whatever, but sometimes you will get women that are not willing to compromise. But I think that you need to have that even balance for any of it to work. Like, I mean, I've turned up at bowls games, right? And I will turn around and I'll say to you, like, literally in a women's game, it's like you've walked into a graveyard. There's nothing, like literally nothing. So I play, and I've watched some women, but there's not many of them. I'll get right down into the head and I will squat down and I'm all over that head and I'll command it. And if I'm playing against a man, I don't care either. I'll command that head as well. It doesn't bother me, but the amount of shock and like, well, why is she doing that? Like, because I'm playing a game of bowls, like a passion, like, do you know what I mean? And sometimes I think some women are afraid to do that in some instances as well.
And the sad part about it is, you know, I wrote quite a big piece recently about when Catherine played Alex at the Worlds.
That was so good.
You know, that for me proved that this sport has no boundaries as far as levels across the game. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you can play this sport to exactly the same level. And people make the argument of, well, some women may not have the drive that the men's got. That's by the by. That's all very well as long as you can hit the drive, because half the bloke can't. So that's by the by. I'm talking about Richie. He's never hit an out in his life, especially when he plays against me.
I'll just go now. Thank you very much.
See you later, Rich. I'll let you know how it goes. Richie, from your point of view, obviously, have you got anything?
I'm an old fart. I've played for 40 years, so I can go back to the times where the women wore the white starched hats, the white gloves. You had to have 6 inches below the knees and all that malarkey. And yeah, okay, back in the 80s, yeah, that was okay. But do you not think the people that's in the positions now have probably just worked the way up from them times, thinking that's the way it's got to go? I mean, Rachel said something about change. I mean, we've said it on the podcast numerous times. The dirtiest word in bowls is change, because people didn't like it. They're frightened. I think they're frightened to take the change. I mean, county games, like Rachel said, and he's all said, your county games on a Friday afternoon, you're working people, you haven't got to open hell. I mean, why not play on a Saturday? What? I mean, I'll get wrong. Did you do shopping on a Saturday? It's sexist, but hey, well, you know what I mean?
Richie, I mean, I don't want to try and create any issues here, but the washing and the ironing builds up over the week. So sometimes, you know, these weekends...
David, leave it, son. Move away. Move away. You're outnumbered 3-2, in fact 4-1.
The skulls I'm getting on this Zoom.
But we the same as well. Can I work both ways?
Exactly. Why is the women only doing the washing and ironing?
Yeah, good point, Gillian. Good point. I do my washing and ironing.
Only joking. This is a good one, I think. I mean, just touching on what you've just said there, Richie, that's all well and good. These people have got into that position, but what are they looking at in the bigger scheme of things? They must be seeing all of the promotion of the game and trying to go in a different direction. I just question at what point they're going to turn around and say, crikey, maybe I'm being a little bit of a stick in the mud here, and still hearing things about where you've got to get onto buses for county matches in. I'm not going to mention the format or the organisation, but having a brown bag to match your brown shoes and then a pair of whites to get on the bus, but then you've got to change into a different pair of whites to come off and play. It's like, oh, well, Christ.
But them officials are probably people from 10 who've been playing for probably longer, at the same time as me, 30 years maybe, and that's the way it was done. You know what I mean? And nobody's challenged them to say, oh, can we not do this? I mean, Gillian's probably come in and trying to be a breath of fresh air in Lancashire side, but she hasn't got the people, the numbers to carry the plan through.
I'm just going to touch back on Rachel there, because obviously you've talked, Rachel, about how things are progressing. So what was the initial reaction when you've obviously gone in there and tried to change things, and what are the barriers that you've sort of hit, or has it been relatively smooth moving? Because, you know, Northumberland's nowhere near the strength of county that they used to be. So there is something that needs to be worked on there to get Northumberland back to where it is. So sad to see that they don't turn a Liberty team out indoors for the men and, you know, various things. So what sort of conversations have you had and things you've had to do in Northumberland to get this?
Well, I think we've had a recent change in terms of the committee as well. You know, people have stepped down because they've openly said, like, I think we need to change, and I don't think I'm the right person to kind of be the one to put that change forward. So they've kind of openly stepped back from their positions of power, as you will. So we've had new people coming onto the committee, and I think it's helped to at least get things sort of moving in the right direction. So one of the things we wanted to do was kind of rebrand the county with new county shirts, because as a women's committee, we're really keen on trying to get the full county amalgamated, and we want to be seen as more, more unified across the board, and try to remove these silos between being the men's section versus the women's section. And yeah, we try to put forward of adopting, for instance, I'm just going to go down the route of county shirts. We try to put forward the use of the women adopting the men's county shirt, because they've just recently got a new one to show that we're all part of one county. And when we go down to places like nationals, you kind of go, that's Northumberland for both men and the women, we all look the same. And we did get a lot of pushback at the time of it. Was more a case of, well, why do we have to conform to what the men want? Why do we have to adopt their county shirt? Why can't they adopt our county shirt? So we did get a lot of pushback, but at the same time, we took it as a move forward that at least they wanted a new shirt, and they were willing to kind of get something that was a little bit more colourful and that looked a bit more sort of on trend with all the sort of the direction that the rest of the counties were going. So I think we are at that stage where there's progress going, the wheels are moving. I just don't think they're moving fast enough that we need them to be able to close that gap and bring the sport into where it needs to be now, to get those new members, to get that new attention. And I think it's a shame, because this year would have been the perfect year to do it, especially with everything that's happening with the Birmingham and the Commonwealth Games. I think it's a really good opportunity to get bowls out there and get people excited and talking about it. And I just don't feel as though as a county we're doing enough to kind of to drive that. From an individual club basis, I think some clubs are and some clubs aren't. I just think from like a women, and we've missed the boat on things like the hashtag This Woman Can and all that. We should have been really leveraging that from a social media point of view, from a county perspective, from a club perspective, to showcase what bowls is about and what you can compete from it and what you can get out of it as well. I just think missed the opportunity for it, and hopefully, things will keep going, but hopefully we'll pick up the pace a little bit more.
Right, mate. Here's a topic and a half for us to get me teeth into. Draw for rinks. I thought this was put to bed years ago, but the issue's bloody raised its head again. In your county competitions, national competitions, blah, 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 your home man, for me, always picks the rink. The rule got changed about 2010, I think it was, where you had to offer your opponent a choice of rinks. And I always thought you used to just toss the coin, like, it was a blind draw, but Bowls England's interpretation is that the home team offers the visiting 2 rinks, and the visiting team picks which one they want to play off. Now, I think that's bollocks, mate. Like, I think if you draw at home, you should have home advantage. I put a post out on the wrong board on our Facebook page, and just to find out what happens around the country, and we got an absolute mixture of everything. It was either blind draw, the opponents selecting the rink. Scotland apparently do a blind draw if they're not blind drunk. Apparently, that was from the post, not from me. That was from me. But I asked the question what the preference was, and the preference was a mixture as well, for a blind draw or the home player picks the rink, not the current interpretation. So I did a little bit of investigation, mate. I did a bit Roger Cooker here. The changes in the World Bowls, because it's World Bowls who brought the law in. Believe it or not, June 2011, Bowls England requested clarification on the law for drawing the rinks of play. Their concern was, it seems as though many people are not offering the away team the available rinks to make a draw, and the home team is choosing the rinks which suit their players. Right, okay then. What answer did they get? What do you reckon, mate? This is the answer that they were given. There are a number of ways in which the draw for rinks and opponents can take place, e.g. numbers for rinks to be drawn on from a hat by respective skips or team representatives swapping scorecards containing the names of their skips and then shuffling and pairing the cards. So the away player doesn't pick. The Laws Committee, this is the World Bowls, does not have a preferred option except to say that there should be a random draw done for the rink numbers and opponents. Finally, the Law Committee recommends that the method to be used for drawing rink numbers and opponents should be included in the conditions of play for the event being played. Right, now after all that, you look at the Bowls England rules, it directs you to World Bowls. World Bowls takes you to Laws of the Sport 3.1, and you need further forward. Absolutely no further forward. All I ask is go back to home player picks the rink. For God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, just the one to throw into the mix there, which is our county now obviously do fixed nights.
Yeah.
So if you've got a club that enters 10, 12 players into the club, or regardless of what the situation is, you've got all 6 rinks that need to be taken as an example because 6 have been drawn at home on that particular night. You've got the complete farce where not only have you got to offer the 2 rinks, but you've then amongst your 6 players got to do a toss of a coin to see who gets first choice of the first 2 rinks, second choice of the next 2 rinks. And they've then got to wait for the other person to find out who got that ring, because then they need to know if they can. It's just if you're drawn at home, you pick a rink and you go on. It's outdoor.
Exactly.
Yes, there's advantages, but it's not like it's. I don't know what advantage can you get on these outdoor greens now? The majority of them, you're only giving it 2 balls of green and yanking it as hard as you can anyway. So. Yeah. Hardly an advantage, but it never affected people 30, 40, 50 years ago. It was always the same, and why should it now? So
why alter something that's not broken? That's to me, you're just tinkering for the sake of tinkering.
And again, in my opinion, it will only be a minority of players who have possibly put a complaint in about that. And they've probably gone with a minority, because I think, judging by the responses that they had, the majority of people will just turn around and say, well, just blind draw it or just pick your ring. Simple.
And believe it or not, you could actually abuse it, because if I offered you 5 and 2 and you took 5, and my favourite is ring 2, and depending which way you put the ring out, you'll end up on your favourite ring.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can abuse it. So there you go, folks. That's a tip for you. Straight from the Wrong Bias podcast.
Swap the numbers back round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You got left, right, or right, left. Left, right, right, left. And now we return to Amy, Rachel, and Gillian.
Just a quick one I was going to ask there was, you hear a lot of, if these things change, I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to play this. I'm not going to play this. In your experience, Rachel, I'll just quickly come to yourself before I go back to Amy. Have you lost many women bowlers off the back of the changes that have happened? Or have they just adapted and gone with it?
I don't think it's people leaving because of the change that's coming. I think it's people leaving because unfortunately their time for bowls is coming to an end, just age catching up with them and not being able to bowl or not being able to be the player that they were. I honestly can't say that we've lost people because of we're changing the shirts or because we're having a joint finals day. I think people have kind of just rolled with it. It's just some people take a little bit longer to come around to change than the others, but at the end of the day, it's still bowls. It's still what we all do, what we all love. Still bowls.
So, Amy, from a Welsh point of view, are you seeing any green shoots coming through of any potential change for the better, or things that are being put in place to try and bring more women into the sport?
In terms of bringing more women into the sport, no, there's not a big drive in terms of bringing in members, retaining them, and it is a struggle that all the clubs are going through in Wales at the moment, unfortunately. Generally, it's not just women, but it hits women an awful lot harder because of the numbers that we start with. Bowls in Wales is even further behind than everywhere else because we still have 4 separate bodies in terms of we have so Welsh Ladies Indoor Bowls, Welsh Indoor Bowls, which is the men, then you have the Welsh Women's Bowls Association, which is the outdoor women, and then you have the Welsh outdoor men, obviously. So this season was the last one of the Welsh Ladies Indoor Bowls and the Welsh Indoor Bowls. As of September, they unify to create Welsh Indoor Bowls. So I think there is a lot of that trepidation from a lot of the women in those positions and everything, and there is a lot of, I think they're nervous of what that world is for them because there is such a degree of separation for the men and women at the moment because there's nothing really unified. They're going into this now totally scared, but I'm really hopeful that it will bring both the perspectives into one and we might actually see some, because I think one of the biggest things for our women is to play more mixed games and more I know with yourselves in England you've got like your mixed drinks and your mixed championships and everything, so there is a lot more of that happening and there's so little of it happening here. There's no mixed national competitions other than the over 60s pays, so I think that would be a huge thing for us to get involved with as well. And it's a difficult one because for years I think a lot of us have wanted to do it, but
it kind of has been the women who've been more reluctant to do it, which I'm quite surprised with, because in terms of a playing aspect, I know that a couple of you have mentioned in terms of wanting opportunities for women to bring on their game. And I think the biggest way to do that is to play with the men and to have those opportunities. We would have killed for that when we were younger, and to have that, and it's always seemed strange to me that it was the women's side of things that were more reluctant on that. I know a few men who were, yes, I know there are preconceptions about some particular women. They go, oh, I don't want Doris playing on my rink instead of Barry, like
Doris alone.
so and so. Exactly. But yeah, I think for a lot of, I don't think you would get massive numbers wanting to do it, and I think the women who would want to do it, it would bring on their game massively, and it would make the championships a little bit more interesting, because we've got issues struggling with the men members as well for trying to get a championship side on a weekend. So it's kind of a kills two birds with one stone situation, but it's like you mentioned before, it's a difficult one when you have certain people in positions of power and who are reluctant to give up that power when it means, because if you have one governing body, it halves the positions available. So yeah, it has been that we've experienced that, I think, for sure. But I think there seems to be a little bit more positivity about it all this season now. I think we've got some really good people involved, and they all seem keen to bring on the game and drive on that mixed aspect, in terms of the body itself. So I'm hopeful about it, but I don't know whether I'm living in a rose-tinted glasses world and what it actually will be very much of the same. I think that's just what we're hoping it's not, really, because it has to change. It just cannot. We're going to be in a situation in a few years' time where we won't be able to get an international team. If it continues as it does.
I'm really glad you brought that sort of topic up with regards to the mix, because we talked about this probably a year or two ago, and a major gripe of mine: stop reducing leagues and taking the easy option out when you have got women who could potentially quite easily come into the teams and allow them to play in a mixed league on a night, whether it's been a male league for 143 years and the heritage is there. Care less. At the end of the day, we want leagues, we want bowls, and we want people on the greens playing bowls. Stop with the idiocy and allow people, and especially women who work and have got commitments during the day, to play on a night time at 6:30. I'm sick to death of hearing people turning around and saying, well, we don't want to play at 6:30 at night because it's cold. And well, that's fine. Stick to your daytime leagues, and let's call it something different. Let's have a seniors league or whatever it is during the day, or whatever that might be, but then create something to potentially open up doors to so many more women to come into the sport, and allow them to play at 6:30 and allow them to play with the men to progress the game. And let's get that level in the sport where it needs to be.
Sorry, David, just to interrupt
No,
you
it's
there.
okay.
One of the things for Northumberland this year, actually, they've just put in that they've opened up 2 out of the 3 men's leagues are now open for women to join, and it's for that very reason, because unfortunately we're now getting to a state where there's clubs out there that are struggling, that don't have the influx of members coming in, and they're really, really struggling to be able to field a team. And what teams are already down to something like 12 players, so we cannot keep reducing it, because we've already got a league that's only for 9 players. And then one for 12. So what they've done is they've now opened it up to allow the possibility of women to play. And I can hold my head up high and say that from my personal bowling club's perspective, they've put in at least one lady that's had their name down, and I think I've played in just about every game, every Tuesday and Wednesday night game since the season started. I feel as though my bowling's come on leaps and bounds, because I'm getting that regular practice in, I'm getting that consistency to be able to keep bowling, to play against players that I've never played against before, to play against and play with better bowlers as well. When I now go onto a bowling green and I'm on I'm going to say men's league with my air quotation marks, I feel as though I'm there to prove myself, and I've got to prove myself every time I step on the green. I feel like I need to show them why I'm allowed to play in this league. I need to prove myself that I'm a better bowler, that I'm a good bowler to deserve to play in this team, rather than some of the other men that might have played in this team previously. And it's a kind of a hard place to be in as well.
It's not rocket science. It's like, what is the major issue? What is the best thing to have? A thriving league with plenty of people, regardless of male or female, playing in that league, or the situation like myself and Richie are finding ourselves now, which is just complete and utter ludicrousy, because they've brought in the option to drop down to 12, but there are still clubs who are caught between a rock and a hard place, because the stronger clubs could turn around and say, well, we could potentially put 2 teams in, but then there's loads of players restricted to one team. There's loads of players restricted to the other. If there is county competitions and nationals happening, then you lose a percentage of those players again. And it doesn't give us that clear option to put two teams in. So now we're left in a position where we have got 4 teams in a league and we play each other 3 times each across the league. I've got to sit and look at Richie's face doing a podcast on a regular basis. And now I've potentially got to see him 3 times in a season and play him over and over and over again.
And thumpers and thumpers and thumpers. That's all. He didn't have that on, did he? You know what? The only time I beat him was a night where he didn't turn up and they accidentally left his name on the card. So I'm looking at the card. I'm playing Davy Bolton. I beat whoever it was about 18-4 as his champion. I finally beat the little bugger. You know, we've been trying ages to have a ladies' night, haven't we, mate? We couldn't get people to come on. I don't know whether it's my face or what, or he's frightened of Davy. I think it was Davy. Probably couldn't get a word in for Davy.
And we're so used to the food chat. We didn't want to interrupt the bromance if we started talking about Pringles or something like that.
Pringles. Anyway, what's your thoughts on potato waffles? Beans or an egg? Beans or an egg on top?
I'll tell you what it is. I bet there was 90% of those who listened to that stream and went away and put a potato waffle in the toaster. I'm telling you. They'll not admit it. They'll not admit it, but I'll guarantee they've all tried it.
And I bet there was 90% had food poisoning the following morning.
Potato waffles, a waffly versatile. Grilled and bacon, fried and eat 'em. Waffly versatile.
Please note, other makes of potato waffles are available. Here's a question for the 3 years. Now, just pretend that you've never played bowls. Would you, where the sport is at the minute, would you take up bowls? Is the sport attractive enough for you to walk? You walk past a bowling club now, your local bowling club, you looked in, I might have a go at that. Or would you just walk past and go, we'll go into the three pigs lugs or whatever it is, the pub and have a beer?
The 3 pigs lugs? Where do you go and drink it?
Well, Rachel might know. It might be Northumberland way. I mean, Welsh. Lancashire will be a wine bar, none Gillian and Jason.
I'm liking that question, Richie. I'm looking forward to the answer for the 3 guys.
Right, come on, Gillian, you're first.
It would depend on the game, if I'm honest. So
it would depend on the game.
Yeah, because if it's like a Middleton Cup game and I'm walking past and I'm hearing people scream after balls, then I'd be like, I'd stop and watch. And I'd go, oh, what's that? Or if it was your Monday night spoon game or, little throw-up game and it's flat, I'd walk past.
If it was a women's game with the whites and greys.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, which I would expect. Come on, Amy, down in the valleys.
Yeah, absolutely. In that situation, I think I probably would. What I will say is that I've literally just come back just before we started here. I've been out in Barry today, Barry Athletic, because there's one bowler, Chris Wright, you may know him, and he's doing wonders in all fairness. He's really trying to drive the game forward, and he's done an event today called the Welsh Premier League, which is kind of a similar ilk to the Bowls Premier League, which has just been on, the latest one now. And if I'd seen that and walked past it, I would definitely have taken up the game. It was colourful garb with for every different team, music blaring from the full bar with everyone having a good time, and just a really relaxed atmosphere with a good sight. If I saw some of that, I'd take up the game in an instant because I'd go, actually, that looks quite a good laugh. But yeah, the situation that you've described with, if it's a women's league game on a Tuesday evening, I'm walking on by.
What about you, Rachel?
I pretty much echo the comments, to be perfectly honest. If I see a bog standard ladies game, unfortunately, it's not live enough, it's not loud enough for me. Whereas like Gillian said, it all depends on the game. If I was walking into like the county finals, or if I was walking into even just one of the club's open days, where the greens are absolutely buzzing with people. There's lots of people around. There's food on, there's drinks, there's music, there's laughter. I would definitely stop, and I would definitely want to get involved with that. But there's not enough. We don't have the spectators at a league game. It's very much very calm, very polite, very pleasant, which is very, very British, I guess. Really, you don't have any of that loud and excitement that you need, that excites people to the game. If you think of if you compare it to a sport like football, that's very fast paced and energetic. You're going to want to stop and watch it. You get hooked. Whereas bowls is very calm and strategic for most of the time, so you don't get that excitement from necessarily watching just an average game.
I don't know. I saw Doris drop her umbrella once. She got really excited during the game. So just a quick one on the flip side of that. Then you've all been playing the sport quite a long time now. What was the thing that brought you in? So you're in the sport, you've come in the sport, and to be fair, you've all probably came into the sport at a worse time than what it is now, because at least we are trying to drive new things. Was it family? Was it friends? Was it just what was the situation that actually got you, the three of you, in? Gillian, we'll start with yourself.
So my mum and dad started playing bowls in Scotland, and I was dragged along because there was no babysitting. We were told children should be seen and not heard. It was literally like you're to sit there and you're not allowed to move. And then there was this one day where I nearly died because I choked on a 2p coin, and then I ended up having to run outside. And then anyway, I obviously survived because I'm here. And then they said, "Oh, does she want to go?" And I gave it a go. But then I moved from Scotland to Lancashire, thinking I arrived when the greens were getting made for the Commonwealth Games. So I thought, well, there must be bowls greens. We couldn't find any. We arrived at Manchester and they asked us to give it a go. So we had a throw before the Commonwealth Games started. And then they said that the membership was really, really tight. And at the time there was the Commonwealth was a club, and then there was Heaton Hall. And then we tried to find another club, couldn't find any, and eventually we found Bolton. And now there's only 3 clubs in the whole of Lancashire, 3 clubs in the whole of Lancashire to play with. But I remember I got to Leamington for the first year in 2009, and I remember I came out of the car park and walking over the grass, and I could just hear this buzz, and it was so electric. It was like I could hear foghorns going off. I could hear just this loud noise, and I thought, oh, "What's this? What have I turned into?" And I turned into the middle of the Amy Rose competition, and it was amazing. I walked down, so that was being played on A green. I was playing on D green, and there was nothing. It was just dead. You couldn't hear what was going on in the Amy Rose because it was so quiet. And I'm like, what's happened here? So then I left. Oh, got tanked. Anyway, that's a different story. But then I left, and I thought, I'm going to go back and see if I can get an Amy Rose squad. It never happened, but it was that drive, that noise, that buzz that made me think, right, well, I want to keep and drive to try and get that.
Good stuff, Rachel.
So for me, it was family that got me bowling. So I am the 4th generation of bowlers in my family. So it's kind of in my blood. I wanted to be on the green a lot sooner, actually. I think I wanted to be on the green from the age of about 4 when my brother and sister started bowling. And at the time, we were our club was a school of excellence for juniors. We must have had about 20 to 30 juniors on a Saturday morning. So it was loud, it was fun, it was somewhere where you got to come and see your friends and play a game of bowls and have a laugh, have a bacon sandwich. And I pretty much just did that for quite some time, for years really. And like Gillian said, actually, it was the Amy Rose. So we first put an entry down in 2008. I think it was maybe the only year Northumberland had enough girls to be able to get an Amy Rose squad down. But we went down there, and like you say, that noise from, everything was all exciting. It was face paints, it was jazzy hats, it was clappers, it was bangers, and it was really loud, really exciting, and really fun. And I think after that, I got the bug to play competitively, and I started putting my name forward for the under 25s and under 25 pairs, and really wanted to push myself to get down to Leamington every year. And that competitiveness hasn't really left.
It's good.
You know what it is when you mentioned about the Amy Rose? The two you mentioned the Amy Rose. I could just imagine the old fogey sitting in the background. God, see, it wouldn't have happened in my day. It wouldn't have happened in my day. And look, have you seen her running up and down the grid? What's going on here? Where's the
I was really shocked the first time I saw it, because I remember always saying, like, you always had to stand still when someone was bowling. You couldn't make a noise. It had to be perfectly silent. And then to see this, it was like I'd walked into the Twilight Zone. It was like, well, what's going on here? You know, it was crazy, but it just makes the game so much better. So much better.
From the Amy Rose across to Amy Williams.
It was friends who got me involved, actually. I'm the first bowler in my family. So yeah, I started when I was like 11, and it was just myself and a friend. Our parents both ran like a brownies group thing, so I had to come down anyway. So he was like, oh look, just come down to the bowls and go there. And yeah, very similar situation to Rachel, to be honest, because I went to the junior sessions on a Saturday then, and there was a good number of us, and there was a really good crowd. And yeah, I think it was that play, and I had a really good coach when I was younger. He was just really good and genuinely had a real passion for the game. And I think without him, I don't think I would have played it at all, because I was a very similar situation. I liked going on a Saturday, played that for a while. It was fun, it was a laugh. And I think when you're younger, you get into that period where you do all different things. Like I think one week I was doing karate, and then next week I was doing swimming, next week I was doing running, and then bowls just happened to be the last one and the one that stuck. But yeah, I think the involvement with the juniors was a big help, and my coach was probably what kept me going within the sport. And then yeah, we didn't have anything like the Amy Rose, unfortunately. But when I played my first under 25 international, I'd gone from kind of playing, we did have mixed leagues at the time, but all older members, all very quiet. And my first international, when I was leading, I remember having the jack in my hand and obviously finished the trial ends. And I think the thing that really kind of took me by surprise in that same way was when kind of we were to set off on that first proper end, and just the place erupted, and I'd never been in a situation like it. And I think I was just 14 on the mat with a jack, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is a proper game. Okay, let's go with this kind of thing. So yeah, it was that complete culture shock. And yeah, mine was exactly the same, seeing that situation then and seeing these girls running after these bowls and playing really, really good games and getting really competitive with it. I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I enjoy this, and I'll keep doing this for a while.
One positive thing for the women's sport, if you had the chance, one thing to move the sport forward. Davey first, one positive to improve the women's game, mate.
I think it's purely and simply just be very much aware of the world around us now and realise that things have gone forward. So from a positive point of view, we've talked about it a lot. We have just got to give more opportunities to women who cannot play bowls during the day. Plain and simple. It's as easy as that. And that will, without a doubt, increase those numbers tenfold. Because I do believe, as we've just listened to all three of the girls saying there is something in the sport. It's not a premium sport. It's not elite sport or anything like that, like the footballs and everything else that goes with it. But there is something in our sport that hooks you to the sport. When you get in there and you're in an environment and you play our sport for what the sport is, it is so addictive, and people will play regardless of the fact that they will spend £3,500 across the season to win a painted gold badge at the end of it. And that speaks a lot for the sport itself, because we've all been there. We've all done it. We've all made the sacrifices in our life. And for what? You get a badge at the end. So it's nothing to do with what you win. It's to do with the actual sport itself. So that would certainly be mine.
We'll go on then, Amy.
I think a mixed, really fun, competitive setup with music and good atmosphere. I think more events like that and mixing the game. And because, like Dave said earlier, we're really lucky in bowls that it is one of those sports that anyone can play anyone. And I think we just need to embrace that a little bit more, go with that forward really, and see where it takes us. Yeah.
Rachel?
I think in terms of dealing with what we've got at the minute, I think as women, again, I'm sorry, but we're good at talking, we're good at being loud. So why not take that energy and put it on the bowling green as well? Why does, when we go on the bowling green, why does the noise stop? Why do we have to be quiet? We need to be more encouraging. We need to be more like getting into the head, getting stuck in, getting involved. And then, like you say, then maybe one day when you see there's that next generation walking past, they don't just carry on walking by. Next time it makes them stop, it makes them watch, it makes them come in.
Go on, Gillian.
I think for me, and a little bit like what Rachel said, that women do talk. When I'm at bowls, that's my happy place. Everything else gets left behind because my phone goes in my bag. I don't answer any of my calls. I don't answer any of the texts. I've got a rule that if it rings 3 times, then somebody needs me. So they know if I'm at bowls and I don't answer it. So everything stops. And yeah, there is that sense of calmness, but when I'm me, then I don't need to worry about being the manager that I am. I don't need to worry about being the mom. I am, that's me. And I think that is what's positive about bowls. Like, I saw something the other day that was so inspiring. A gentleman called Craig Bowler, who's been doing it, he's been getting mentioned a lot recently, and he was on the news. And I just think that if we can get all of that inspiration and all of that drive from everyone, like not just women and men as well, and if we can just get on there and make flipping noise, do you know what I mean? And we will drive it, you know, but this is just a small part of it. Like, we need everyone to hear us, and that's what we need to do now. Like, we can take it from here tonight and we can go forward or whatever, but we now need to be heard.
It would be your target age. Because we've always said in the men's game, they've always said, get the young lads in, get the young lads in, get the youth. And then me and Davies got me round to thinking, well, no, you didn't need the young lads. You're looking for your 30 to 40-year-olds to get into the game. So the women's side at this minute, I mean, what would be the target age for the women's game, really? Are you looking at the younger element, as Gillian says, as the threes have said, if you walk past the game nowadays, you would have walked past. So teenagers, unless they've got relations who play and get dragged in, are not going to be attracted to the game. So is your target audience mothers, people who's had children, but the children are now grown up? So you're looking at 30 to 40s, or are you going a little bit 40 to 50s?
I think it has to be the younger age. I think you have to get them involved in school and get them so they can be comfortable talking about the sport and kind of what their passions are. Because, and then on the flip side, I do also think kind of once you've got that children, that those children that are older, because I think if I was to join this sport now, being a mum of 2 children, so my children are 4 and coming up 6, I've got virtually no time. Yeah. If I didn't have a husband that was so supportive, you know, and he's always kind of, I'm not going to say babysitting because he's a parent, so if he's not doing his fair share of parenting, I wouldn't be able to go out and play bowls as much as what I do. I mean, sometimes I'm away for the full weekend bowling, and I kind of do miss out on a lot of quality time at the weekend. So I don't think mothers are the right age. I think you need to get them either just before, and that, you know, like you say, they're hooked on the sport and that they want to carry on bowling, so that they make the efforts, the plan, they get organised. It's what we do to make sure we can still fit it in and make that time for us. Because like Gillian said, when I'm on the bowling green, I'm me, you know, I leave all of my other responsibilities behind. It's just about me and it's about the bowls. You want them when the kids are old enough, and it's about refocusing on finding yourself again. You know, you're no longer needing to be that parent with your children depending on you 24/7. So you've got that free time, you know, so why not take up something like bowls to re-socialise, re-find yourself and find something that you can get a passion for and really like commit yourself to as well.
I agree, because I'm the youngest member. Like the next person younger than me is who I'm going to be playing with in the triples, and I'm actually old enough to be their mum, and that's actually quite upsetting because they're the same age as my kids. But I agree, like, so sort of 14 up to 40, 50 maybe. I think that is your real passionate. I think anything, and no disrespect to anybody over the age of sort of 60 onwards,
I'm all right then, Jeff.
Sorry, I just don't, from my point of view, when I've been in amongst the county women, that they just don't seem to have that same passion and drive.
The competitive edge.
Yeah, you know, and some of them just turn up and just want to turn up and play their game of bowls, you know, and that's quite hard.
One thing I'm just going to say in sort of defense is the wrong word, but I'm just going to throw something else into the mix there, and having had the shop previous years and just trying to get an understanding as to what's going on in the women's game. Rich, you'll know I've said this in the past. I used to be very much youngster focused, but because of the work that I do now, for me, I think we need to celebrate the fact that people can play to a later age in the sport. I think it's a fantastic thing. And one thing I will say is that there are a lot of women between 50 and 65, I would say, on an average, without pigeonholing, who are extremely keen to also promote the sport and take the sport forward. But they are held back by those who we've talked about throughout this podcast, who will use that power to basically just drop it into the conversation or whatever that might be that upset me and you won't get it in the team. And you see so many of the majority will cower back. And I saw it, well, I mentioned the shop because I saw it so many times with women coming in and saying, oh, I cannot wear that white top because it's got a bit of pink in it. And I used to turn around and say, well, turn around and tell them, no, you're going to play. If there's a group of yous, turn around and stick together and turn around and say, we will not play. What are they going to do? They're not going to have a team. So they're going to have to give somewhere along the line. And we've seen it over the years where if you press the issue and basically turn around and say, well, no, we're not going to agree with you. Yes, if they want to walk away from the sport, that for me gives the answer that they're only in it for their own personal gain. So if they walk, they walk. There will always potentially be somebody who would step into that. But I've also seen positives in the sport now, because I do think that the minority are very much becoming the minority, and the majority who want change, regardless of age, are now starting to actually get that and get that in place. So, I'm only saying that because it's good to focus on that age group, because I think it is a really, really good age group. But I don't want to discount that higher age group as well, who also know what the world is all about, because the majority now are grandparents who actually go and pick their grandkids up because they know that the daughters and the sons are at work. So they've learned to adapt to that new world as well. So that's why I just wanted to say that, because I just, for me, get as many women into the sport, regardless of age, because again, that might just provide another 10, 15 people in a club that might be able to stop this whole thing of dropping league numbers down from 16 to 12 and allow clubs to actually be able to turn a team out.
Well, this is it. I mean, I tend to find that it tends to be more families, for people getting introduced into sport. And that's one of the beauties of bowls, is that it doesn't discriminate on age. You can have somebody at 70 being just as good as someone at 17 that's been bowling for the last sort of 8 years or so, and it's something that you can do together as a family. With not many sports you can do, so you kind of do rely on those like you say, on the older generations. If you've got grandparents looking after grandkids, bring them along for a game of bowls, let them give it a go, and it's a great way to bond, as well as, like you say, increasing that membership and getting working on the next generation of bowlers as well.
Times to hear people say, so like 60-year-olds say, God, I wish I took this game earlier. I wish I took the game up earlier.
Thing I certainly want to see as well, and we do this on a regular basis, regardless of the topic that it is. If Doris wants to come on and give us a hit over the head with a handbag and argue the point, and argue the opportunity of why they feel this is still happening, and give us a good enough argument to turn around and say, well, fair enough, I'm not going to agree with you, but I'll agree with you, then that opportunity is there. Please feel free to contact us. Please feel free to say, I would like to come on your podcast and argue why these things still happen, and we are always open to listen to that, because at the end of the day, we want a fair argument as well, because we can all badger on and have a go at everybody who's doing these things, but in some areas there may be reasons for it to happen, but in the big scheme of things, I don't think it's helping the sport in any shape or form. It's been a great chat, unless there's anything really, really burning that you would also like to chuck into the melting pot.
Go on, be free. Did it be shy? Shy Ben's getting out,
Well, you've made some fantastic points, and anybody listening to this must start to understand that there is issues. We all know there is, and it's good to actually hear people talking about them as well.
Yeah.
What we'll do is in 10 years' time, we'll get the 3 years back on, and when it's gone from 34% up to 35%, we'll talk about the positives of how that extra 1%'s coming into this family. Again,
and that's because we brought our kids in.
Yeah, exactly. Great answer. Yeah, again, I'm only joking on that part. There's nothing I would love to see more than 50%, or 52, 48. It is a sport for everybody, that whether that be disability, whether that be trans, whether it be male, female, whatever it may be, there is a position in the sport for everybody, and the benefits that it brings is fantastic. So stop putting so many barriers in place to stop people playing the sport. Great stuff, everybody. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank
It's been
you.
great. And,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great season.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
both.
you. Bye.
Bye.
And now a couple of bloopers. When your brain says open and chat, but your mouth just doesn't want to follow. Right, there we go, mate. Oh, hold on, no, I've started wrong. Right, there you go. Another one over with. Haven't done the opening one yet. Blooper. Don't read another one, are you? Right, here we go. Right, there we go, mate. Oh, God.
Jesus, I wear, man.
Oh, God. We'll do the closing bit first. Oh, no. Right, here we go. And when your guest just doesn't want to leave you.
And they say women can multitask. Press the leave button,
I'm
woman.
doing it now.
I'm doing it now. Right, there you go, mate. Show 41 over and done with. And it's ladies' night. And it was the Zoom call. Looked like an edition of Celebrity Squares on Dave, mate.
Aye, it was nice to have a bit of glamour on the show for a change.
It was, mate, right? Yeah, but that's just me and thee.
Exactly. But great conversation, a hot
Yeah.
topic that we've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And you know what it is, if there's women out there who listen to the podcast and listen and agree with what's been discussed, raise the word. Tell those who are in, holding the sport back. Have a listen to what the general feelings. And we've had a wide range there: Northumberland, Lancashire, Wales. It's not just happening in one area. So have a listen. Maybe have a think about why you need to go forward to try and improve.
Yeah, but I think they were great. They came on really, they spoke really well for the sport. We also have a little announcement as well to make. In a broadcasting deal equivalent of the Premier League football, we're pleased to announce that we've been asked to live stream the planned World Qualifiers at Solihull.
Absolutely.
October 22nd and 23rd. I'm sure keep your eyes focused there. So there'll be loads of potato waffles and a bit chit chat from us.
Yep. Our aura is obviously starting to get out there now. People are starting to understand that there's a bit of quality in there.
Well, for anybody who didn't see, Davey raised his eyes there. Looked up and said, "Oh." And one to finish off with, mate. A pat on the back to Lancashire's Nigel Williams and Jack Lockhart for that the Clash of the Chords.
Yeah,
I don't know whether you're saying that. They raised just over £5,000, which goes to the Francis House Children's Hospice.
Fantastic.
So a great effort there from them, from both ground green and flat green at Heaton Hall.
Definitely.
So there we go, mate. Show 41. We'll be back in about a month's time, I think. So hope you enjoy the show, folks, and we'll catch you later.
Take care, all. Thank you for listening and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.